mile offshore, I can see the lamp in your hands, beckoning me, said I need a safe place to land. A mile offshore, guess I'm home, my friend. Catch a full night of sleep again. I'm not going back out again, my friend. For a mile offshore, it looks like 73. So little has changed, this one pub village I see. The windows glisten, the hills are green. I hear your voice calling out to me. From here we both could be 17 again. Hi, Randy. Country music. I hear your mother and father are gone. They say I'm not the type you can depend upon. Looking in from this line of sight, I can only say your mother and father were right. A mile offshore, the dolphins dance by my house, circling me to the lilting song of the gulls. I know that's what I've been sailing toward. When I tie down, you can climb aboard for a little dance. It's a sweet reward to ourselves. For my long, clear history of selfish deeds, I come home with only apologies. There's no blame if you turn your back. To hell with that, you're out there waiting for me. A mile offshore, I can see the lamp in your hands, beckoning me, said I need a safe place to land. A mile offshore, guess I'm home, my friend. Catch a full night of sleep again. I'm not going back out again, my friend. A mile offshore, guess I'm home, my friend. Catch a full night of sleep again. I'm not going back out again, my friend. A mile offshore, I can see the lamp in your hands. Whoa, 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 whoa. A mile offshore, guess I found a soft place to land. Whoa, 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 whoa. A mile offshore, ha, ha, ha. A mile offshore. A mile offshore, whoa, whoa, whoa. A mile offshore. Welcome to my music room and my country, John's Country Music. Dinner hour live stream, my view of country. You know, when I first started out playing with bands 50 years ago, it's 49 years ago actually, that I played in my first band. And then I started going out down southern Iowa and playing with country bands down there. And back when I was playing country, it was Johnny Cash, and it was Chris Christopherson, it was Merle Haggard, it was Willie Nelson, Johnny Paycheck. It was that kind of music. So that's kind of the country western that I knew. You know, I listen to it on the, I don't listen to it that much, but I hear it sometimes on the radio and everything, and it's different. It's different. You know, I watch the Grammys for a while, look at the country musicians, and it's different. It's different from what, I guess that's something about getting old, is that the music changes. But anyway, what I write, the thing about my music too, that I've always known this. The jazz players say it's not jazz. The rock and roll players say it's not rock and roll. I'm sure the country players say it's not country. Anyway, this is a relatively new one, and this seems to be kind of, in a sense, one of my theme songs. My right hip's about to go at any time. Maybe I'll get a new one, like other friends of mine. I hear tell but old folks who break their hips and then they die. If that's the case, goodbye. If I could live forever, I don't know, Highlander. I had my share of good years, but it seems a while ago. Maybe I'll make the best of things, but I used up all my time. If that's the case, I'm fine. If that's the case, I can wax philosophical and nobody see when I cry. If that's the case, goodbye. 35 years since you walked me down the aisle. Now 3 days out of 6, I do my best to make her smile. Maybe in my absence, she'll have pleasant thoughts of me. If that's the case, c'est la vie. If that's the case, I can wax philosophical and nobody see when I cry. If that's the case, goodbye. The right hip's about to go at any time. Maybe I'll get a new one like other friends of mine. I hear tell but old folks who break their hips and then they die. If that's the case, goodbye. Oh, if that's the case, goodbye. Oh, if that's the case, goodbye. If that's the case, I think that's a fictional character. That's kind of the story of my life right now. If you see me get off the piano stool, come up here and stand up, and my Apple Watch is always telling me, you know, you're due for a fall, they say. So that's my answer to that. The right hip's about to go at any time. Maybe I'll get a new one like other friends of mine. I hear tell about old folks who break their hips and then they die. If that's the case, goodbye. So, you know, and one of the reasons I'm doing this now is that, you know, we're heading finally into the spring and summer seasons and starting to line up some farmers markets, and some of them in the smaller towns, and the more countrified music kind of goes over well in the small towns, and I like that. I love playing in the small county seats far away from home, and rather than open with a mile offshore, a lot of times I open with these two songs. Sometimes I open the Des Moines Farmers Market with this. I want to talk to you. Please don't walk away. I've been going over and over in my mind the many things I need to say. Sometimes I'd love to cut the strings that bind my heart to yours. Other times I want to draw you closer. It's all I know. I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you. I know it's been some time. When I set out on the road, I thought it would resolve the burning questions in my mind. All I did was drive in circles, and I came home more confused. I still tried to walk away, but I drifted here. I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you. I don't know if I'm in love or just out for some control. All I do from dawn to sundown is think of you. I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you. Then I go into this one. First thing that I do when I get there is start a love affair with you. I can hardly wait. Ain't that enough? Tomorrow's for today. The moment that we share will lead us into an afternoon affair for which I'll gladly stay. Ain't that enough? Tomorrow's for today. Ain't Not enough tomorrows for today, enough to come and lay beside someone whose only claim is imagination unrestrained. Would you rather have me tell a lie to go and pledge my life away? You know tonight I'll stay. Ain't that enough tomorrows for today? Not enough tomorrows for today, enough to come and lay beside someone whose only claim is imagination unrestrained. Would you rather have me tell a lie to go and pledge my life away? You know tonight I'll stay. Ain't that enough tomorrows for today? Ain't that enough tomorrows for today? Hey, hey. Ain't that enough tomorrows for today? Hey, hey. Ain't that enough tomorrows for today? And as you can hear, some of those lyrics, when I play the farmers markets, a lot of times it's kids, you know, and so I do a lot of self-editing on that one, on a lot of the others too. So you won't hear some of those lyrics there. Anyway, there's that. I'm going all the way back, even before the first bands, you know, when I first dropped out of school, which was, you know, that was 50 years ago next month when I dropped out of school to pursue my fate as a rock and roll legend. And, you know, as it turns out, since I started playing some country music, a country legend as well. But, you know, I didn't know how to get started. And as you know, in 75, you know, at the end of the summer, I recorded a demo. I headed off to Nashville, and none of my songs really struck a note with any of the producers there in Nashville. In those days, you could actually walk up and down Music Row and play your stuff for the publishers, and they'd let you in. When I went back 10 years later, they didn't do that anymore. But I was staying with my uncle and aunt and my cousins, the Thompsons in Brentwood, just outside Nashville, and my uncle suggested you should write a country song, and I don't like country back in those, because, you know, when you just got out of high school, you're conditioned not to like country, and he said, well, if you're going to be in Nashville, whether you like it or not, you got to write country. So we sat down, and they fed me a story. My aunt Pat, and my cousin Carol fed me a story about a couple of people they knew, and I turned that into this song. Pastor Sloan came to call today. It was too late, we had gone our separate ways. On Sunday, I will sit alone and listen to the Reverend Sloan, 'cause my love and I have gone our separate ways. Where was he when our love began to die? Couldn't he see the tears that filled my eyes? On Sunday, when he spoke of love, I prayed so hard to God above, we wouldn't have to go our separate ways. The day we said goodbye to love, I prayed so hard to God above, we wouldn't have to go our separate ways. Pastor Sloan for the last time called today. He said goodbye, then he slowly turned away. And we both knew the lasting love was in the hands of God above. But my love and I have gone our separate ways. The day we said goodbye to love, I prayed so hard to God above, we wouldn't have to go our separate ways. Whoa, oh, oh. The day we said goodbye to love, I prayed so hard to God above, we wouldn't have to go our separate ways. So that was my very first country song, 50 years ago this fall. I wrote that in Nashville, and as you know, then I went on to New York City, and you know what happened there. That's a long story. Went off to Massachusetts, and then I got a call. When I was just left Massachusetts. I was in Buffalo with my other cousins, and the guy across the street was a unit director on Hee Haw, the TV show. And I had actually played that song for a bunch of the neighbors at a party that they'd thrown for me on Thursday night when I was still in Nashville. And I'd made a little cassette of that song, and he had played it for some of the other staff, and they thought, maybe we can use this on Hee Haw. So I actually hightailed it. I had one of those 1 month bus passes where I could go all over the United States for 1 month for $100. And I hightailed it back down to Nashville and spent a day in the Hee Haw studio while they were recording episodes. They just, one after the other, bang, 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 all morning. They just, they probably recorded this four or five episodes while I was there. And then they went back in the writer's room with my song while I sat out and watched them record Hee Haw. And then they came out and said, yeah, we're not going to use it. But anyway, that was my first country song. This one's more recent. This one, I guess I wrote it during the pandemic. It had nothing to do with the pandemic. So this is 5 years ago. And so I wrote it 45 years after I wrote my first country song. Leftover meatloaf in the fridge. Making that meatloaf was the last thing she did. She didn't even get a bite. There's so many things I hate about that night. It's been up on that shelf about a month. Not gonna eat it, though I thought about it once. In a way, it's a lot like myself. Time has run, now I languish on the shelf. There are things you keep and things you toss away. Some are easy to identify, others bother you your whole damn life. That's right, Randy, I'm the only one that has a meatloaf song. Some meatloaf in the fridge. My sister asked me what the odor is. It's the story of my life. You'd understand if you were there that night. She says, I'm not telling you you're wrong. Gotta pick a point for moving on. She says, once again, you're right. I just don't have one anywhere in sight. There are things you keep and things you toss away. Some are easy to identify, others follow you your whole damn life. In my best dreams, I have my slice. Then she serves up hers. Stick around, Eddie. Some are easy to identify, others follow you your whole damn life. There's some leftover meatloaf in the fridge. Some leftover meatloaf in the fridge. I got a song that I'll play next. It's not about meatloaf. It's about a fictional stuntman named Eddie. I memorized this song because I was told to. I got 2 songs about Eddie. The other one gets more airplay than this one. It's a song about a fictional stuntman. A fictional stuntman that has like 280 credits in major motion pictures. This guy has doubled for Robert De Niro, Matthew Broderick, James Brolin, or the other Brolin guy, Hopper, all the great guys. Silence of the Lamb guy, he's doubled for him, So, this is a song about him. Eddie had a dream he didn't even tell his friends. Jumping off of buildings from the time that he was 10. There's a word they use for kids like that. He didn't care to see the nurse again. Eddie's mother, Katie, was perplexed when he come home. Seems like every other Tuesday with another broken bone. They don't break themselves, what do you do when you go out alone? Now it's a couple decades later and she knows. First you'll take a roundhouse to the head, drive into a wall. You think that he'd be dead, it's just one day's work is all. Tumbling off the hills, fighting in the bars. There's a living to be made, falling for the stars, falling for the stars. In Southern California, there's 100 boys like him who figured out their secrets on a gray school jungle gym. No one understood them in whatever one-horse town they grew up in. Pulled aside by Uncle Joe, who's into everyone's affairs. By the time that you hit 40, you'll be living in a chair, sniffing out a dream, Joe. You can know the risks and you don't really care. And I'll send you off a card when I get there. First you'll take a roundhouse to the head, drive into a wall. You think that he'd be dead, it's just one day's work is all. Tumbling off the hills, fighting in the bars. There's a living to be made, falling for the stars, falling for the stars. And you're thinking it's De Niro, but it's Ed. Why don't you stay and watch the credits? I can wait until you've read it. And it was true that I just said. First you'll take a roundhouse to the head, drive into a wall. You think that he'd be dead, it's just one day's work is all. Tumbling off the hills, fighting in the bars. There's a living to be made, falling for the stars, falling for the stars. A fictional song about a fictional stuntman named Eddie with a mother named Katie, and falling for the stars. I didn't know there was a more popular song that The Fall Guy, the movie, came out last year. It wasn't a bad movie actually, and at the Flicks where I went to see it, as a Jerry Reed song, or somebody recorded it, and a dozen people have recorded it, and it's about being a stuntman. I like mine better. But you know, this isn't the only song about Eddie. You know, I was in this room one night about 11 o'clock, back in the day when I had to work my day job, and so I'd be here at 11 o'clock. What am I going to write about? And I'm on Facebook, and Eddie comes on. He goes, "I'm all right." Eddie says, "I'm all right." And I'm thinking, well, that's good. It's good to know that Eddie's all right. One less thing to worry about. Then I had another friend living, and he was living down in New Orleans at the time. I had another friend in New Orleans, and she gets on. She goes, I'm all right. So I'm thinking, something's going on in New Orleans, and I looked it up, and they had a tornado. They had a tornado. And I'm thinking, well, we get tornadoes, 2 times a week that time of year. We go out, we watch them and everything. And but the thing is, they were really nervous about their weather down in New Orleans at that point, because it was just a year or two after Katrina. So anyway, Eddie Matthews is safe tonight. That twister came, lost its bite. Katrina was a mean old bitch, but Eddie Matthews just laughs at this. That twister was all bark, no bite. Eddie Matthews is safe tonight. That twister was all bark, no bite. Eddie Matthews is safe tonight. Back home in Iowa, well, this shit happens all the time. None of this crap about, I hear the siren, so I gotta hide. You hobble on the porch, skipping out to some funnel cloud. And the cheers go up when the old girl touches down. Eddie Matthews is safe tonight. That twister came, but lost its bite. Katrina was a mean old bitch, but Eddie Matthews just laughs at this. That twister was all bark, no bite. Eddie Matthews is safe tonight. That twister was all bark, no bite. Eddie Matthews is safe tonight. Still safer than Mardi Gras, but you can't outrun it in your car. I know how this sounds, but don't let her catch you in a trailer park. You fumble in the dark to bring out the insurance cards. When the winds die down, you leave them where they are. Huddle on the porch, scoping out the funnel cloud. And the cheers go up when the old girl touches down. Eddie Matthews is safe tonight. That twister came, but lost its bite. Katrina was a mean old bitch, but Eddie Matthews just laughs at this. That twister was all bark, no bite. Eddie Matthews is safe tonight. That twister was all bark, no bite. Eddie Matthews is safe tonight. That twister was all bark, no bite. Eddie Matthews is safe tonight. That twister was all bark, no bite. Eddie Matthews is safe tonight. Two songs about the same high school classmate. The two success stories out of my high school class. You know, we've got doctors, we got lawyers, we have people that formed companies that made millions and millions of dollars. But the two success stories out of our class is a stand-up comedian and a stuntman. You know, they've you know, for long after we're gone, people are going to be going to movies, and they're going to be watching the credits, and Eddie Matthews is going to be on there. Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Casino, some of the greatest films ever made. You know, and he was part of it. He was part of it. So anyway, he's on there now. Here's an interesting one for me. This is off my newest album, Hall of Fame. And for whatever reason, you know, I can, I got to see what you're saying there. I can't always read what people are saying. Well, yeah, you know, I have to say, I've written 5,000 songs, so you know, and you've got two of those, so that's, what did that come out to? But whatever, I'll tell you one thing about that song. I was leaving my dad's place. I was visiting my dad on a Sunday when he's still around, so it had to have been about 7 years ago. And I left. It was a Sunday afternoon, and I turned on the engine. I started to drive, and all of a sudden, that song was coming out of my tape player, you know. So I thought I must have that CD and that song on it. And then it occurred to me, I don't have that CD in it was on the radio. You know, I don't know if you're like this when you're sitting at home watching a movie, and all of a sudden, that's me, you know, working for Clint Eastwood on Flags of Our Fathers, or whatever the one you did about Iwo Jima, you know, that's me, and all of a sudden, that's how I felt hearing it on the radio. It's a local station and everything, but that never goes away. That, at least for me, you know, hearing myself on the radio, and that was it. This one, since I started releasing my songs on the streaming services, which has been about 3 or 4 years now, I've had 75,000 streams, and that sounds like a lot. That's earned me $65 in royalties. So, you know, but this next one is off my newest album, Hall of Fame. And for whatever reason, this is, and I didn't push it or anything, you know, I didn't do anything to promote it. This is the one that's gotten the most play, which means it's gotten like 300 streams and everything. But the interesting thing about this one is it's 300 streams from 16 different countries. People all over the world listen to this song, and you don't know from listening to it who it's about. And but people listen to it. Birdie, my boy, my little stick in the mud, I'm sorry I won't be there long enough. Your mother and I, we got somewhere to go before you reach 10 years old. So they'll send you to live with your Uncle John in Thornton, Oregon. Where, Birdie, my boy, my little stick in the mud, I know you'll be tempted to run. Birdie, my boy, my little stick in the mud, you'll sift through the ore like your venous blood. That isn't what they'll remember you for. You'll walk through a whole different door. Birdie, my boy, my little stick in the mud, is there ever enough food for everyone? Never was easy before, but everyone starves in the war. There'll be a day, it appears, you could have a career as a millionaire. But Birdie, my boy, my little stick in the mud, your heart takes over from there. Birdie, my boy, my little stick in the mud, you'll make more history than anyone. And when they look back from the decades ahead, there'll be so many things they'll forget. Bertie, my boy, they'll remember the man with planets and schools and the Hoover Dam. A good man caught up in tumultuous times. Sometimes even hindsight is blind. When you go off to Stanford, you'll meet a young woman from Iowa. Where Bertie, my boy, my little stick in the mud, that's what an Iowan does. Bertie, my boy, my little stick in the mud, I judge a man by the good he's done. I tell you right now, when it's all said and done, I'll be proud of the man you'll become. Bertie, my boy, my little stick in the mud, I'm sorry I won't be there long enough. Your mother and I, we got somewhere to go before you reach 10 years old. That song has been played in England, and Ireland, and Costa Rica, and France, and 16 different countries. That song has been played, and I don't know how you could even begin to know what that's about. But last year I was booked to play in West Branch, Iowa, at a celebration for Herbert Hoover's 150th birthday celebration. And the booking fell through. I never played there, but I wrote that song to celebrate Herbert Hoover's 150th birthday. That's a song about Herbert Hoover. And I don't know, you wouldn't know that. Bertie, my boy, my little stick in the mud. Bertie's mother and father did die before he was 10 years old, so he was orphaned. And his father, before he died, used to see him out playing in the mud streets of West Branch, and he called him his little stick in the mud because he was always playing in the mud. And anyway, so I wrote that song, and it's 16 countries that's played in, and that's my biggest hit off of Hall of Fame, my most recent album, which you can get on Spotify and Amazon Music and all your favorite streaming services. The cowboy hat. Wearing the black hat. This is another one, another theme song about somebody, a real person. Linda Gates, it's been a long and painful wait. I've heard you're on the market, so I'm asking for a date. Don't you ice me thinking I don't measure up? I got a pretty decent case. Why, got Netflix, Hulu, Disney, YouTube, a 12-year-old Jeep and a new RAV4, his and her sinks in the master bathroom, ceramic tile on the dining room floor, 2-week timeshare down in Branson, piece of gold with double miles, king of beers and a man cave cooler, cousin Liz doing cuts and styles. Linda Gates, I don't have $1 billion in the bank, put a little on the market, but like everything, it shrank. There'll be pizza and a film on Friday nights. I've got enough to fill the tank. Why, got Netflix, Hulu, Disney, YouTube, a 12-year-old Jeep and a new RAV4, his and her sinks in the master bathroom, ceramic tile on the dining room floor, 2-week timeshare down in Branson, Visa Gold with double miles, king of beers and the man cave cooler, cousin Liz doing cuts and styles. Melinda Gates, I'll never come home late. I'll take out all the garbage and let you win the debates. I'm not out here for you slice of the pie. I got enough to fill the tank. Why, got Netflix, Hulu, Disney, YouTube, a 12-year-old Jeep and a new RAV4, his and her sinks in the master bathroom, ceramic tile on the dining room floor, 2-week timeshare down in Branson, Visa Gold with double miles, king of beers and the man cave cooler, cousin Liz doing cuts and styles, 2-week timeshare down in Branson, Visa Gold with double miles, king of beers and the man cave cooler, cousin Liz doing cuts and styles. Netflix, Hulu, Disney, YouTube, 12-year-old Jeep and a new RAV4. Anything I can do. Hi, Terry. How you doing? From England. We got Atlanta, if Eddie's still on, and we got a few in Des Moines. Linda, Randy. This next one, actually, this is all the lyrics to this next one are printed out in my new book, The German Helmet on the Basement Shelf. This is a true story. It flows from my last book that I published last summer called $1 American Tutor, the story of my father. This is a World War II story. This is a Holocaust story. It's a World War II story. It's just, the story just kept getting bigger and bigger the more I worked on it. And it has to do with World War II, basically. And I didn't know that. I kind of knew it because there was a character in, of course, these are all true stories. In $1 American Tutor, there was a guy that lived at my father's house right after the war who came back, who was trying to marry my Aunt Betty. And he had fought in the whole war. He was in North Africa, he was in Sicily, and he landed on the beaches of Normandy and stayed in right to the very end. And you can see in that helmet, this is about the helmet that he brought back. And then he disappeared. He disappeared completely after that. And we never heard from him again. But we had this helmet. And this, Linda was at the book fair last night. She bought a copy of it. But he left this helmet. And what he did with this helmet is he painted over it, and he painted on the side of the helmet all the battles that he'd been in, from North Africa all the way up to the landing on the beaches at Normandy. And over the last summer, I thought I got to get rid of this because I can't have this because I could go at any time at my age, and the helmet would go in the dumpster. So it's in the World War II Museum in New Orleans now, and they sent me a deed, and the deed had a little information about Frank, and the guy that stayed with my father had tried for years to find out whatever happened to Frank. We knew he died in '74, and I tried to find out, see if he had any, and all of a sudden when I got this deed, things started to come to life, and amazing story. You can get it on Amazon, German Helmet on the Basement Shelf. But, I talk about the World War II Museum in there and the experience I had back on June 6, 2000, the week that they opened the World War II Museum, and I happened to be in New Orleans that week. And I was really impressed. They had a World War II parade, and it was a procession of Higgins boats, the boats that they landed on the beaches with. That's why it was in New Orleans, because that's where they built them, was in New Orleans. And the Higgins boats were packed to the gills with World War II veterans. And there were Medal of Honor winners in Jeeps going through the... I have never in my life, before that or after that, ever seen a Medal of Honor winner live in person. And I saw several of them that day. I was impressed. Always wanted to write something. And then it just happened to be, it wasn't intentional. On Veterans Day, about 5 years ago, this song came out. My favorite high school teacher, I was baptized by the preacher, who always held a sadness in his eye. My cranky Uncle Harold and his fishing buddy Clyde, they were heroes living ordinary lives. Heroes living ordinary lives. Growing up in Springfield, they were everywhere you went. I know that there's a story, but I haven't heard it yet. Something about D-Day and the Battle of the Bulge. The tales you don't care to divulge. With the 35-year mortgage, it was all about the kids. Like the horrors of the past, we'll never find out where you live. You went off to save the world. You weren't even 22. You say it's just what any decent man would do. My favorite high school teacher, I was baptized by the preacher, who always held a sadness in his eye. My cranky Uncle Harold and his fishing buddy Clyde, they were heroes living ordinary lives. Heroes living ordinary lives. I tried to ask my dad what he was up to in the war. He said there's a lot I don't remember anymore. In the middle of the ocean where so many brothers fell, I don't want to go back to that hell. My mother's Uncle Michael, he was in the OSS. What he walked into at Dachau tried for decades to suppress. He came back and went through college in a struggle to forget. In '59 he drank himself to death. My favorite high school teacher, I was baptized by the preacher, who always held a sadness in his eye. My cranky Uncle Harold and his fishing buddy Clyde, they were heroes living ordinary lives. Heroes living ordinary lives. Whoa, I hate to let them go, but I reckon there's a handful still alive. good sir didn't realize who you were until after you had died. My favorite high school teacher, I was baptized by the preacher, who always held a sadness in his eye. My cranky Uncle Harold and his fishing buddy Clyde, they were heroes living ordinary lives. 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 You know, and that's the thing, you know, I saw all these, I thought thousands of World War II veterans that day very cheerfully riding those Higgins boats down the quarter, the streets of the quarter. And that was, 55 years after the end of the war. And, you know, the thing is, we grew up surrounded by those guys. You know, they were our bankers, our lawyers, our doctors, our priests, our uncles, and everything else. And sometimes we didn't even know it till we read their obituaries. And now they're gone. Now they're gone. At the time that I wrote the first draft of this book, you know, I think there were 66,000 left out of the 16 million that went over there. And I imagine it's probably close to half that now. And by the end of this decade, it'll just be just a handful. And a couple of years after that, they'll all be gone. And that's a damn tragedy. But anyway, that's my ode to the World War II veterans. And you know, there are fictional characters in that song. But, you know, I talk about my mother's uncle, Michael, who walked into Dachau. My mother actually had an uncle who was in the OSS, and he was one of those guys, actually. You know, they knew that there was something like that. They'd heard, but they didn't know how bad it was, and they didn't know if it was true even. And he was one of those guys that walked in, it might have been Dachau, walked into one of those camps and saw for himself. You know, he didn't drink himself to death. I think sometimes maybe he wished he had, because he was Philip O'Brien, my great uncle, my second cousin, his son, Philip O'Brien Jr. He's on the Vietnam Wall. So my great uncle Philip, he paid his debt. You know, he paid his dues and everything. But that song is for the World War II veterans. This one's for your iPhones. It's got to be your iPhones. Get this out. This song has got me in trouble. It's actually brought the cops down on me before. I was brought up in simpler times. Now I'm rapidly fixing to lose my mind. I made it to her. She told me it's all just fine. It's indelibly clear from the look in her eye that our 7-year flame is about to die. Maybe you could tell me why. Hey Siri, what the hell is her beef? How did I screw up this time? What do I do to get back on my feet? Hey Siri, where does the poor fella go? You get a few simple answers. I asked my stepbrother Ned, but he don't know. In my earlier days I could take it to court, but the pastor just left me out on the search. Went off to college and did some intense research. The epiphany came in a bartender's voice, said, don't ever believe you don't have a choice. This one's even worse. Hey Siri, what the hell is her beef? How did I screw up this time? What do I do to get back on my feet? Hey Siri, where does the poor fella go? To get a few simple answers. I asked my stepbrother Ned, but he don't know. Take it to you, you're not programmed to lie. If I can manage to just phrase the question right, maybe you can change my life. Hey Siri, what the hell is her beef? How did I screw up this time? What do I do to get back on my feet? Hey Siri, where does the poor fella go? To get a few simple answers. I asked my stepbrother Ned, but he don't know. Hey Siri, woo, 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 Siri. Hey, Siri. Haha, she says. Yeah, that's gotten me in trouble before. She called the police on me before. I was in a dentist office, and my phone was ringing, and so I let it ring, and then I got home to my house and I checked it. It was the West Des Moines police was calling me, and it's like, so I called them back. I said, "Were you trying to call me?" And they go, "Yeah, you called us." I said, "I didn't call you," and it must have butt dialed you. And they said, "Well, you could tell you were in the dentist office." I said, "Yeah." And what was happening was I was telling that story to my dentist about how, I do that, Siri, and then she calls emergency. She says, "I'll call emergency services," and I stop. Well, she heard me tell the dentist that, and she called emergency services. She called the police on me. Anyway. Little instrumental piece on the piano. I played this one a few times in the last few weeks, but tomorrow's March 26th, and 58 years ago, that was Easter Sunday. That's the day my dog Smokey was born. I was there. Bob Evans lived across the street. Smokey Bob had Smokey's mother, a little beagle, and Smokey's dad was a black lab, and Smokey was born on March 26, 1967. This song, I wrote it the day Smokey died on the guitar. I don't know how I wrote it on the guitar because it's hard enough to play on the piano. But this is a song called Smokey. Smokey. Wrote it today. It was late January 1979. We had Smokey for 12 years, and best friend a boy ever had. But anyway, happy birthday tomorrow, Smokey. 58 years old tomorrow, and getting older. We're all getting older. Remember the day? It was the day, actually the day after the Beatles released Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. That's the day that we got Smokey. June 2nd. That's the day we got him. He was born on March 26th, Easter Sunday that year. See if I can do this one. If I can do it, maybe a good country song. is the answer to your deepest prayers. If you squandered our future for a love affair. If he's so good for you, what else can he do? See your number on the caller ID. Some emergency, I should let it just ring through. Call me if you have to. Try to handle it yourself. If you think you're smart enough to cheat on me, you can fix a TV without my help. Call me if you have to, and I'll be there in a flash. I say don't expect me at your beck and call, but I come running when you ask. You think you get to have it both ways now. There's the door, find your own way out. I'm not ready to go through with that, so yes, I call you back. Then lately, when the sun goes down, I stand my ground and just glance back and laugh. Call me if you have to. Try to handle it yourself. If you think you're smart enough to cheat on me, you can fix a TV without my help. Call me if you have to, and I'll be there in a flash. I say don't expect me at your beck and call, but I come running when you ask. Whoa, I'll come running when you ask to. That voice that will always pull me back. Call me if you have to, and I'll be there in a flash. I say don't expect me at your beck and call, but I come running when you ask. Call me if you have to. Try to handle it yourself. If you think you're smart enough to cheat on me, you can fix a TV without my help. Oh, 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 oh. Thank you for listening. I'm down to my last song. It's always the same last song. Not a country song, but let's see what Randy has to say. He's talking to Terry, I think. Anyway, thank you for listening. Everything's pretty much on schedule, I think, now. As I say, I'm starting to get some farmers markets and stuff booked for the summer. I don't know how busy I'll be, but I got that, and I got the books and everything, and we'll go from there. Thank you, Linda, for coming to the Des Moines Book Festival on Saturday. That was a great event. I had to go to a funeral, actually, right after that. I would have liked to stick around and see what everybody else is doing, but that was a great event put on by Beaverdale Books, and so that was good. Anyway, have a nice rest of the week. I've been doing this for all of my life. It's the one thing I know, and it's brought me to a few hidden corners of the globe. Now I'm sailing into that stage in life, started taking it slow, but I still dream the dream, doubt I'll ever let it go. Thank you, Randy. I will play where I can play, some dark corner or a stage. I've got something for whatever you can pay. I'm not a complicated man. All I'm asking is to stand here if you let me have an hour with this Martin in my hands. With this Martin in my hands. On a little bench on Second and Grand sits a man with a horn. Now, by the way, on a little bench on Second and Grand, this is the man with the horn. That was Julius Brooks when I wrote this. Julius Brooks played with the Ink Spots, played with Ray Charles, played with Carole King, played with some of the great performers of that day, traveled for years and years, wound up in Des Moines. And Julius, I saw him, he was 97 years old. I saw him playing at Chuck's last summer with Tina Haas Finley. And we lost Julius last week, 97 years old. He played right up until the time he died. My friend Joe Weig wrote a story about him 10 years ago, interviewed him. And Julius was telling Joe about somebody he knew that was 100 years old that was still playing. Well, Julius pretty much made that. And I got to play with him once, but I got to work with him on Ain't Misbehaving at the drama workshop and everything. But he was always around. And this is a guy who traveled the country, played with Ray Charles, the Ink Spots and everything, but you could see him playing for quarters out in Second and Grand. And so that's when I wrote that song, I wrote that verse. That was Julius Brooks I was writing about. On a little bench on Second and Grand sits a man with a horn. He's been playing there since almost the year I was born. And it used to be a joke with my friends, I would wind up like him. Now I see him and I realize how lucky he's been. I will play where I can play, some dark corner or a stage. I've got something for whatever you can pay. I'm not a complicated man. All I'm asking is to stand here if you let me have an hour with this Martin in my hands. With this Martin in my hand. It's not the best thing for my health. I'm not acquiring great wealth. I go on because I owe it to myself. I'm not reaching for the stars. Things will stay the way they are. I keep plugging, though I may never get that far. I will play where I can play, some dark corner or a stage. That's something for whatever you can pay. Well, I'm not a complicated man. All I'm asking is to stand here if you let me have an hour with this Martin in my hands. With this Martin in my hands, I will play where I can play, some dark corner or a stage. I've got something for whatever you can pay. I'm not a complicated man. All I'm asking is to stand here if you let me have an hour with this Martin in my hands. With this Martin in my hands. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next week.